Developing concentration, or as the Tibetans say, samten, is different than doing an analytical meditation. Concentration, to the Tibetans, is a mind that is single-pointedly locked on a mental object, while the mind is free to move around as it analyzes and thinks about the object during an analytical meditation. Samten, this is the word for meditation used in the name of the fifth perfection, and it also refers to 4 levels of deep meditation which result in a rebirth in the 4 form realms. And so these realms themselves are sometimes given this name. Your mind's concentration must be in at least the first level of the form realm concentration in order to see emptiness. Now, this Tibetan word, has the connotation of a stable state of mind. Repeated concentration practice on the same object over time, and try not to keep changing the objects from session to session, will bring about 3 qualities. Fixation, which the Tibetans call necha, and that's like holding a coffee mug. Selcha is fixation with clarity, and that's like loosely holding the coffee mug. And Ngarcha has clarity and intensity, and that's like holding the mug firmly. Now, this kind of concentration should be focused on an inner mental object in order for it to truly develop the mental powers that come with concentration. Each of the levels I'm going to describe refer to a mind placed on an inner object, not the sensory information like the tweeting birds surrounding you, or the smell of the incense burning nearby, or even the feeling of your backside on your cushion. That kind of awareness and mindfulness is a different mental function and has been confused to equally pertain to these 9 levels, and they don't. So, with the example of the cup, you can hold a cup firmly or loosely. Holding the cup is having fixation. Holding it loosely is fixation and clarity. Holding it tightly is fixation, clarity, and intensity. And clarity refers not to the object of meditation, but to the meditator. It doesn't refer to how clear the picture is, but how clear your mind is, how alert, bright, and fresh it is. Increasing clarity brings the mind back to an alert state. It doesn't mean trying to see the Buddha's fingers more clearly or with more detail. Intensity refers to the degree of clarity. Having intensity means having a greater degree of clarity. Now, the 9 levels of concentration, also called Semne Gu. The first level is called Sen Jokpa, and that just means placing the mind on the object. You receive the instructions from your teacher about what object to meditate on, and you can keep your mind on it only very brief periods of time. So you learn the object from your teacher, and you put your mind on it. That's your first step. You have very little ability to hold the object except for a brief moment now and then. And you're going to think your mind is worse than it was before you meditate because of a lack of focus. You're just seeing the mind clearly for the first time. The second level is called Gyundu Jokpa. And Gyundu Jokpa means placing the mind on the object with some continuity. You're able to keep your mind on the object briefly for about the length of time it might do to do a single round of short mantra on the rosary. You have constant agitation and dullness during these first 2 stages. You can keep the mind on the object about as much like going around saying Om Mani Padme Hum on your mala. At this stage, you keep the mind on the object about a minute or 2, and then it seems that the distractions surge back to the mind in great force. The periods of distraction are longer than the periods of concentration at this level, and dullness and agitation are predominant at this stage. During these 2 levels we just said, we're developing necha. That's stability. That's holding the mind on the object. Now, I'd like to point that you're going to read the terms dullness and agitation, and it just means like how sleepy you're going to get. You can easily fall into sleep. And then agitation or excitement is that the mind is racing, moving about the object that you're meditating on, or drifting off into other storylines. And so one of the antidotes you have to use here is called Dempa. This gets translated to mindfulness, but the connotation in Tibetan Dempa is memory. Okay? So mindfulness and awareness in English, you're kind of interchangeable sometimes nowadays. So Dempa is that we're having to remember, we're having to use the force of memory to put ourselves back on the object of meditation. Okay? That's your major antidote to develop just fixation. So for the most part, as you're trying to develop concentration, most people aren't even in concentration yet. They're doing a lesser kind of like training wheels version of concentration, which is called jukgom. And in an earlier video, I talked about these 3 different types of gom. Gom means to habituate. Okay, so jukgom, chegom is the analytical meditation. That's where you're sitting still. It's a physical discipline to remove physical distractions as you're doing a thought, like a thinking laboratory. And then jukgom is practicing concentration. It's you're holding your mind, for small periods of time. You're trying to hold it there to get to concentration. Concentration happens when you're able to hold it for the length of time that I said there. Jukgom is even shorter periods. Some people can, they can't hold their mind longer than 10, 15 seconds. They drift off. So to get to samten, we need to be able to hold the mind just keep the mind there on that object without following the storylines in our head. Gotta go get bananas at the grocery store, and I can't believe she said that to me. Back on my object, you see. So developing this samten, concentration, a stable mind, it takes time. It takes a lot of jukgom, a lot of practicing concentration before concentration starts. That's also really trying to get those voices to shut up. It's as simple for me now as every time those voices would come up when I was younger, I would have to say to my mind, like I'm assuring my brain, we'll think those thoughts after this. Just put it on pause. And over time of doing that and thinking that, I'm not thinking you right now, I'm doing this, they got quieter and quieter. And that's just part of the habituation. That's what gom means in Tibetan. Gom means to familiarize or to habituate. And it's another word that gets translated as meditation. Okay, there are many different types of meditation. Samten can be argued to be a different type of meditation. It's a different quality of mind that's happening while you're concentrating. Now then, the third level is called lentejokpa. And lentejokpa means you place the mind on the object and you patch the gaps. So you're able to keep the mind on the object for a fairly long time. You're regaining continuity and patching the gap quickly whenever your focus breaks off. You're patching your continuity. You have a stream of concentration and it breaks, so you patch the break in concentration to continue in this stream. And it's characterized by shorter breaks in concentration. You've gained pretty powerful jenpa, meaning recollection, and a strong ability to get back to the object readily. Now the fourth one is nyewar-jokpa. And nyewar-jokpa means to place the mind on the object closely. And you're able to keep your mind on the object without losing it, but you still have agitation and dullness. Recollection is very strong, and it's so strong that your mind can't lose the object completely. You can lose clarity or intensity, but not the fixation. So there's still lots of coarse dullness and agitation you're dealing with. You no longer struggle to keep the object, but you struggle with the quality of the meditation. Your ability to recall at this point is completely matured and complete. The tendency at this stage is to bring the mind in too forcefully, and subtle dullness results. Now, a concentration that has reached these 2 levels has developed selcha, and that's fixation with clarity. All right. Now then, the 5th level is dulwarjepa, and that means controlling the mind. Dulwarjepa. Watchfulness is developed to such a high degree, detecting subtle dullness when the mind has been withdrawn inside too deeply. Obvious dullness can no longer occur, and you need very strong watchfulness to catch that subtle dullness. Watchfulness is powerful at this level, and this level is different because you have fixation and clarity, but not intensity. Now, the 6th level is called shiwarjepa, and that means pacifying the mind. Now, watchfulness by this point is powerful, and it's detecting subtle excitement or agitation, which may occur as a result of uplifting the mind as a correction in the previous stage. So there's no longer any danger of subtle dullness. You make the mind calm by correcting subtle agitation, which results from overcorrecting subtle dullness in the 5th step. When you're correcting dullness, you may get too up and you need to bring yourself down a little bit. There isn't much subtle dullness at this level. You need very strong watchfulness to get to levels 5 and 6, and watchfulness is complete at this stage. So at this point, the practitioner has reached the quality of narcha, which is the concentration that is stable, clear, and intense. Now then, the 7th level, Nampa, is pacifying the mind totally. Recollection and watchfulness are total, and there's no great danger of either subtle agitation or subtle dullness, because watchfulness and recollection are totally complete, because it's difficult for dullness and agitation to occur. So you must still make effort to focus the mind, however. You don't have to be very concerned about either subtle dullness or excitement occurring, but it still requires effort to wipe them out. So they're no longer attacking you, you're actually kind of attacking them. Now, the 8th level is called Sechiktujepa, and this means making the mind single-pointed. Neither subtle agitation nor subtle dullness still occur at all. Some effort is still needed at the beginning of the session to make minor corrections to the meditation. At the beginning of the session, you make a small effort to place the mind on the object, and then it remains there effortlessly. And then the 9th level is Nyamparjokpa, and this means achieving equilibrium. It's a deep meditation. Your mind goes into that deep meditation almost automatically, without any conscious effort. There's effortless entering and abiding in this deep meditation. Now, practicing the meditation over and over again leads to this level. You can't perceive emptiness directly without this level of concentration. This is very deep, okay? So that's your, a very brief explanation of these 9 levels of concentration. And you can find lots of information on different websites, different Gelugpa websites about these 9 levels. The best source that I know of in book form is by Geshe Gendun Lodro, and it's called Calm Abiding and Special Insight. And there are more details discussed about these 9 levels also in Pabongkon Rinpoche's Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. But you got to get into it, and you've got to sit, and you've got to work on your own concentration. Familiarity and experience are a much better teacher than a book. The book is going to point to things that you need to do and experience while you're meditating, but you have to do the work. It's like holding a map and going, look, I've got a map. You got to use the map to go. So have a seat, concentrate, and look at where you're at in your development.